Well, hello students. This is Mr. L. We're talking, well, got to get those headphones. Probably got a little going on here. We're going to talk about how do we communicate an idea. We're in that unit right now, and this week is the week, last week of school before the 2 week break, and just wanted to go briefly over where you're at. Now, if you are following the schedule that we're using for this video, as I adjust here my microphone, we're using the one that says Language Arts 7A, the October 31 start. And we're using that one, not the August 29th. And the reason why we're doing that once again, remember please, is we're looking at um, where students are at. Okay, and some students are behind, and that's the whole idea of this video, is to work with you students who are a little bit behind and try to ensure that you will receive at least a 60% in the course. And by attending all these sessions and submitting questions, you can earn that 60%. Now, the key point there is submitting a question. That's the only way that I have any type of proof that you are participating. Okay, I'm not going to, say whose name is what. Okay, but you have to submit a question. Okay, so no names are going to be given. Here we are. We're going to be evaluating a film adaptation. Okay. The rest of the week, what we're talking about is the activity. How do you communicate an idea? Remember, you're going to have to present that to me, so we can do that online if you have a video capabilities on your computer. Uh, you can do that. We can do that through Hangouts. Okay, I'm not looking for anything stellar. I just want to see how you're doing on that. Or if you want and you don't want me to be there at the time, record it, save it to a video file or upload it to like YouTube, and then share the link for that particular YouTube video. And I'll grade it based on that. But that is a visual uh, assignment. Part of that's visually. I have to see it in order to uh, give you a grade. So that is real important. And then of course you have a post test and the unit discussion. And in that, you got to give me at least 50 words on that unit discussion to the question. Then you have a pretest, and then you have an assignment called matching tone to an audience. Now, that one, when we talk about tone, that's the audience's attitude to, um, or not the audience's, that's the speaker's attitude. Okay, so you got to know what kind of attitude your audience has. Are they real rowdy? Then you're going to come across a little bit rowdy. Or if they're very subdued, meaning that they're really laid back, you can't be just going, hey, you got to get it. No, you got to take it easy and be calm. Same thing in your writing. Okay. Sometimes you might have to explain items. If your audience is not very well educated, then you have to give some more explanation. But say you're talking about the sport of football and your audience is all guys and they're all dressed in different football jerseys, I think you don't have to worry about teaching them as much. See what I mean? Okay, so let's get into this evaluating a film adaptation, and we're going to do that, and we're going to take a look at the mastery test very quickly. So as we look at this, okay, we're going to have a response that you're going to be given, and then you have a short introduction. Remember, listen to those videos. I don't put it on here because you're already going to be seeing it in the class, and that's when it's best to be used. Okay, and I do not know why. We're going to get this set up. Remember, you can have slide narration on or off, and this way I'm going to have it off. it'll automatically play. So that's what that's all about. Okay, so we're going to take reading tools. Okay, and notice how this is a theater and a performer is, practicing there. Okay, before you contact me, practice a couple times through, and it's okay to have that script in front of you. I do not want you to worry about having to memorize it. It could be out of my sight when you're doing it, and you could be reading it in front, but don't just sit there and go, hello, this is my, and read across, okay? I want to see some facial action, some movement, okay, in what's going on. Okay. Some of the key elements, and it is still, I don't know why it's doing this. Even though slide narration is off. Anyways, well, I'll have to catch it each time we go. Okay. Acting, it's the process of being a character. Okay. Read through, this is the first thing that ever happens. And it's really neat. I've directed quite a few plays during the course of my academic career, and I've done it through high school and community theater. And the first time when you get your actors and actresses together and they read through, um, I would give them directions on what I would like for them to see or speak or how I want them to react as they go through. And it's the first meeting of the entire cast. Delivery. That's how the actors speak their lines. If this was the famous Hamlet speech, to be or not to be, we call that the great soliloquy. I would say to the actors, what I want you to do is I want you to have pause as you go through it. So utilize that punctuation that in the way that it's written and pause. And so they would say, instead of saying to be or not to be, that is the question, whether it is nobler in thy mind's eye to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, they may come out in utilizing the punctuation there. They may say to be or not to be. That is the question. Whether it is nobler to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. Notice the difference when you're doing the delivery. And emoting is when you take those emotions along with you. So when I said, aye, there's the rub, it's like I'm getting excited, like I just discovered the reasoning. Okay. Projecting, you have to speak loud and clear. If you ever are in any type of performance, and some of you may already have been, you will have been told by the director, don't tell the guy in the first row, tell the guy or gal all the way in the last row, all the way up top. Everyone has to be able to hear you. So you must project your voice. One of the items, and most of you already know that I have this crazy thing called Parkinson's disease. And what it does is towards the end of the day, it begins to rob me of my voice. And so when I've gone through physical therapy, I have had to learn how to project. And projecting is just not something that you normally do. It is something that you have to practice. You have to practice talking to the person in the back room. I have in my house, I have my living room and my kitchen, and it's wide open from one end to the other in those two rooms. So I could stand at one end of the living room and I could see, and I could talk to someone at the other end of the kitchen. So I have to get used to in my house when I talk to my wife, I go, and say to my wife, stand by that end, I'll stand here and let me talk and practice so that I can build up my voice. And that's all part of projecting. It doesn't mean you scream, it means you talk loudly and clearly so that they hear you. You might want to try it sometime. Line reading. During a line reading, director will stop and say, I want you to do something specifically. Motivation. This is something you'll always see in different films and parody of films and such. What is my motivation? Why am I acting this way? Okay. Think about the character. Become the character. If you were Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? Okay. How would you feel if you woke up and saw a bear sitting there, standing there? Not knowing how friendly they were, but how would you act? How would you react? Okay. Body language. What you do with the rest of your body can be as telling as what you do with your voice. Now, if you see the two pictures there, the gentleman, as you look at the pictures on the left with the big hat and he's got his hands over his nose, can you almost hear him going, ah? Even though there's no voice projecting there, you can sense that based on his body language. And the fourth wall. This is important. When you act, you have to act as if this is natural. That there are no one there around you. Okay. And the fourth wall is that wall that it's invisible. The audience can see you, but you don't see them. It's sort of like you're in a box and you have four walls. A type of play that I have directed and performed in was called Theater in the Round, and there are no walls. And so you just have your stage, you have all the items on the stage, and there are no walls around you. And so when you act, you have to act as if there's a wall there. And you could go up to the wall and you're looking at the picture, and the audience thinks you're looking at a picture, but you're actually, they could see you and you could really see them, but you're um, so good that they don't even see you. Take a look at any TV show. There's a camera right there. How many times do you see in a good TV drama the character talking to the audience? No, they're just being normal. And you ever see, like if you ever watched a Bugs Bunny cartoon, he's acting, and then all of a sudden he looks at the audience and he tells you something, okay, which is what we call an aside. Okay, that's when you break that fourth wall. Okay, so those are some of the key elements. My suggestion: write these down. Okay, so then when you come to this page, you can match these titles with what's going on. Okay, so like the reason why characters act in particular ways, would be motivation. Okay, now before you read, okay, you need to know a little bit about like the author and what they did. That is why if you ever notice in some of your English classes, you'll get an introduction to a particular author. If you were in my 12th grade English class and they are learning about Shakespeare right now, we have one whole assignment that's just based on who William Shakespeare is. When I was in a brick and mortar classroom, I actually showed a 4-hour video about who William Shakespeare was because it's that important. And once you get into 12A, I'll share which video that is so you can find it. Okay. So George Bernard Shaw wrote lots of plays, and one of them he is most notable for is one called Pygmalion. And it's like, whoa, whoa, that's a funny word, Mr. L. Well, Pygmalion was made into a film by Hollywood, and if you ask parents or grandparents, especially grandparents, they would remember this one. The Pygmalion is called My Fair Lady, is the film adaptation. And you may have heard one of the most famous lines from that, which goes something like this. The rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain. Okay, so very famous play. Okay, he won the Nobel Prize for his contributions to literature, similar to Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's singer, but his ballads, what he wrote, the lyrics, were a contribution or are a contribution to literature. So understanding who George Bernard Shaw is very important. Okay, now you get some information on it. Eliza Higgins, Eliza Doolittle, excuse me, Professor Higgins, the two main characters. Okay, and in this case, you find out a little bit about it. Okay, now the setting is early 20th century London, so when we're looking at that, it's like, 1910 to 1920, okay, in that area, okay? And how people are divided is based on how they speak. So if you spoke real well, you were considered to be very rich or a member of society. If you spoke very poorly, many would believe that you were poor, not educated. And so the whole idea is that Professor Higgins is going to uh, take Eliza, who basically speaks what's called Cockney, which is considered a language or dialect of English that's really frowned upon. That's spoken a lot by the poor, and turn her into someone who is very refined and society based. Notice what I just did there. So let's move on. Okay, so now you have the reading selection. Okay, and you'll be reading different sections. Okay, here are items that you want to make certain that you know. What is a protagonist? What is an antagonist? Now, if you do not know, look these items up. Very important to do so. Okay. Um, if you don't have an idea, what you can always do is come back into the course. Okay. And I have these language arts 7A tools. And here's called Glossary of Literary Devices. When you click on this, okay, what's an antagonist? Okay. Is it available here? No, so we don't see it in there. Okay, so these are literary devices, so we know that's not going to be one route to look for it. Okay, and okay, so those are for literary terms. So if you don't see it there, what do you think you need to do? What do you think you need to do? Well, first of all, Mr. L is going to have to add that glossary into there, but you can always go in and do like a Google search. And when you get to Google, let's put antagonist and see, antagonist, and it will give you who an antagonist is. Okay. Oh, I really love this. I'm going to have to save this. I love that picture. So, knowing it's the opposition, someone that you're not really into. Okay. So as we move on, so we're back here into evaluating. There we go. Got to make this. So, you know what characters you like, what characters you don't like. Okay. Okay, so plot, you go from the exposition to the high point and then to a resolution. Make certain you write this into your notebooks. You'll have to understand plot through the remainder of your language courses, your language art courses, when it comes to literature. Okay, there's a plot structure in plays, but you also will see this plot structure in stories, regular stories. Okay. Setting is the environment where the story takes place. So a setting could be outside, it could be in a city, it could be inside of a home. Okay. When you know what the setting is, you can start to fill in the blanks. If it's inside of a home, your setting would have what? If it's in a living room, it's going to have some type of furniture. Okay. Language is important because language can be broken down into dialects. Okay. Directors, they have a vision. Each director is different. If I had you take a look at Hamlet, which I do in 12th grade, there's actually 5 different performances that you have to evaluate in that class, and they are all completely different. Each director had a different idea. Okay. At this point, you'll start reading, and here are some questions that you can utilize. And what you want to do is you want to hit Control and click, and it'll open up these questions. Okay. Answer these questions. It will help you to understand and be able to do well on this test. Okay. And then you have some practice questions and something to write about in there. Now, here is the play, and they're gonna, so now you've read the play, okay? You wanna read it first, and then when you come to here, it's going to give you some additional information. It's gonna help you to understand it a little bit further, okay? Gives you analysis, okay? And then tells you a little bit about what would happen with the remainder of the story, okay? Theme, okay, this is the idea. What is the whole idea? If you could put it into one sentence, what would the theme be about? And I'll give you a little clue. Look at this butterfly in the cocoon. And the word for the theme is transformation. It goes from one look to a different. Or Eliza's going to go from someone who is considered poor, uneducated, to someone who is a very well-mannered lady. Okay, now notice this word nature versus nurture. Very close in spelling, but 2 different items. Okay, naturally represented here by the DNA strand you see. This is nature. This is what we normally, if we didn't teach our body anything, this is how our bodies would react. Ever notice, like with dogs, they're domesticated, but if you have a wild dog, a dog out in the wild, it acts differently than, say, a dog in your home. Or if your dog goes outside, it could be so nice, and you might have toys like my little Oliver. He's like 10 pounds. He's a miniature Schnauzer. He has different toys that he plays with, and he's got one that's basically a stuffed duck. No problem with it. But if he sees like a squirrel out in the yard, oh, we even have a stuffed bunny rabbit in here, and he loves it. He plays with it. He sees a bunny out in the yard. He's like all over the place. Okay, that's nature. Nurture is how we have trained him to act or behave in a certain way. So that that is very, very important to know that difference. Okay. You have a couple more. So you think watching a film might change your interpretation of it? Good possibility. Okay. What you'll have is analysis here, questions. Once again, hit the control, click, and you want to take these questions again. It's the same thing. Okay. And you want to take them, put them aside, and utilize them as you watch the film. Okay. Okay. So up to 34:35, which be somewhere about right here. This is an hour and a half. If you'd like, you can watch the whole film. Or maybe, get, family members around and say, hey, can we watch this film? Um, as our night of watching TV or during the break. I tell you what, there's so much free time there during the break. Just be a great thing to look at that time. Okay. And then the last activity is comparing the play and the film. Okay, so put in your questions, click submit. So I'm just going to do this so that we can get the submit button to work. And it tells you a little bit about what would be a good suggested answer. Print it off, and then you can save this print. It normally should go into a PDF, okay, and save it, okay, and you can add it to your notebook. And then you have, of course, the summary at the end, and we pretty much end the tutorial. So very important. Take your time, utilize the analysis questions as you go through so that then you could take a look at the questions. Okay. What is the excerpt reveal about Eliza's character? Okay. Here's another one you should be looking at. What 2 reasons you think the director may have added the bath scene to the film version? What role does the element of motivation? Remember, this is the reason why an actor acts in a certain way. How does the element of body language contribute? And if you ever see a director of a play, they'll tell you to overact. You don't just smile. Smile so that the edges of your smile meets each ear. If you got to look, smile like it's going to from ear to ear, in reality, the audience is only seeing that smile go maybe a little bit past your nose. It's really crazy. The film version Adds a scene that shows Eliza in her home grooming herself in front of a mirror. Okay, what does that say about the character? Why would you be in front of a mirror? What should that tell? What two narrative elements appear? Okay, we talked about theme, we talked about setting. We didn't talk too much about these, so what do you think? Haha, the ones we didn't talk about as much. Gave you that question. Okay, which piece of dialogue shows Eliza has a quick temper? Now remember, you know, to use punctuation. And if you need to read these multiple times, you read them multiple times. This is not a time test. Okay. Why is speech and language very important? What set of lines suggest that Henry Higgins tends to be condescending towards women? What does that word mean, condescending? If you don't know, search Google. See, you can right click, highlight it, right click, and search Google for what does condescending mean. I'm not going to do it. I want you to do that. And then last, drag the tiles to match these items. Okay, so which one of these would mean project? And those are the questions. Okay, if you have any questions about uh, the unit, the lesson, feel free to send those to me. Let me know. Be more than willing to help you out with that. I'm looking forward to talking to you and answering your questions. I already had a couple students who have asked questions, who have reached this far in the unit. Um, you're always going to have them. I'm here to help you understand them. So asking me or looking material up are just a couple different ways to work smarter, not harder. Until next time, I hope you're having a great day. So long for now.